It's your favorite killer on the kitchen here, and we are back with another E7 video, and it's been a long time since I've done this type of video, but we're gonna do an account showcase, kinda. So as a lot of people know, the arena season just ended, or not the arena, the RTA season just ended with the inclusion of the new rank Emperor, and I was fortunate enough to finish in it. So I feel like a lot of people would kind of be curious if they didn't quite make Emperor, what kind of an account could look like if you were to push for it. And I'm not saying that my account's the best, right? But it's just the units that I used, kind of off meta builds, just because I don't farm a lot of Wyvern. I mainly farm Banshee, so I have a lot of units on like lifesteal and stuff. And I'm also going to show what units I plan to build in the future because I feel like they're quite important to have. I was missing a few of the super meta units, and I didn't have a lot of the niche pocket picks. So there were a lot of times where there was like, oh, only if I had this unit, because if I were to draft the exact same way, they'd have it and use it against me, which honestly kind of felt bad. Alright, Cermia's PvE. I mean, she's not really been changed. She's like a high-speed bruiser build. Yufine, I'm a work in progress forever, just because I don't farm Wyvern. But I feel like she's actually kind of decent in this meta. AOL does neuter her really badly, especially because it's a non-attack skill, so it can't miss. And then because it can't miss, Yufine can't cleanse, she just gets silenced. And then she'll be forced to do an AoES1 that procs AOL's passive. So that's probably not the best. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do for her. It just sucks for Holiday Yufine, because she just quickly got smacked out of the meta right when she was starting to come back with the Guide to a Decision. Ravi hasn't really been changed. She's just been sitting on the same gear as she always has. She's kind of fallen off hard, because first it was Carrot, and now it's Charlotte, and now after that it's Mercedes. So it's kind of hard for her to keep up with all these units. I'm not saying she needs a buff though, because if they buff her, I feel like she'll just be right back to being borderline OP 1v4ing. Ras is mainly PvE. I am going to try to transition him into PvP, but I don't know how fast I'll be able to get him. And that's the big issue, right? Like, if you're gonna run an ARAS, you kind of need speed on him. Like, a lot of the ARASes that you'd see are like 250, and I definitely do not have that gear on tank stats. So I might just keep him at like 220, because for my comps, that's actually okay. That's faster than everything except for my AOL, really, that I use. So I'm definitely looking into it, just I have to get the gear for it. Charlotte, see, this is what I was talking about when I said I don't have some of the meta picks. This gear is not done. Like, she's just unusable currently. No molas, low attack, and it's just low speed. Like, it doesn't work. Like, if I were to try to draft her, I'd probably just lose. Like, even though it's the right time to pick her. So that kind of sucked. So I'm definitely, honestly, I don't even know if I'm gonna build her anymore, because Milim is taking the max symbol that I have, or like the higher level symbol. Plus she's gonna be taking a lot of my molas. So I don't even know if I'm gonna build Charlotte anymore, because I never really liked her, to be honest. I might have to. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is like a work in progress Charlotte that I had. Like, the gear was okay, it's just I had this ring that I don't know where to put. Lilias, I don't think I drafted at all, but I saw a lot of people drafting her against me. So I guess the thought process is to double 15% check on AOL, because it's rather if you don't get the immunity stripped or if you resist the silence, then she cleanses. But I never found that it worked. Like, every time somebody picked Lilias, they just got silenced, and then I killed their DPS and they died and they lost. Because that's the issue with Lilias comps, I find, is that it's kind of risky to bring double DPS, but at the same time, if you bring solo DPS with Lilias, it could get very risky because they just tunnel the DPS and they usually just die. Like, I don't think there's really a DPS that can just sit there and take hits except for like Cermia, which actually would have high attack and high bulk. Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep her on a bruiser build for now. Maybe I can start trying to dump some of our defense into and the effectiveness into Efres. Maybe get, I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know what I would do. Cause a lot of this gear is like high crit and stuff. But I do definitely think that the ER Lilias is the better build. Elphelt I brought once into a fight against Rimuru. She didn't kill, then I yielded. So Elphelt was something I was actually kind of theory crafting against Rimuru, just because he's Earth, and he sometimes has immunity, but they're usually not that tanky. Like, they have mitigation, like, don't get me wrong, like, they'll definitely have mitigation, but maybe Elphelt can kill it. If you have a properly built Elphelt. Mine is not built that well. It's like a low attack. But, I feel like if you can get a DPS Elphelt going at decent speeds, she'll actually be pretty good at Rimuru first pickers. Because not to mention that, she gives your team attack buff, and that can help you snowball the advantage of having a 2v, or a 3v4. But I mean, she will just die. So, it really depends. But I do see value in her being picked. So I'll definitely look into getting her better gear. Mercedes is a real big hero this meta. With her being unable, or with her countering uncounterable skills, it makes it really hard for landies and stuff, because sometimes you can just knock them out of stealth on random turns. And that also is doubly true for counter set, because she has a really good innate bulk with her passive, decreasing crit hit damage by 25%. She becomes very tanky. Not to mention you can run her with like an Aureus, or I ran her a lot with the LQC. So she'll have some more mitigation. Actually, I guess the LQC mitigation doesn't do anything, but she'll have some innate mitigation. She provides an attack buff for the whole party on an attack skill, which I found very valuable, because there would be some times where they would draft me, or they'd draft Politis into my Emilia, and then I'd just pivot into Mercedes, and I'd let the Emilia just sit there. Because she's on counter, it's okay for her to sit there, because she's bulky. But, yeah, I feel like Mercedes is one of those units where if you don't have her built, I recommend building her, because she will not let you down. I've seen speed builds, I've seen lifesteal builds, and I've seen counter builds, and I feel like they all do their job relatively well. So, not to mention she's also usable in PvE. I know that people are using her in the Fire Expo, or not the Fire Expo, the Earth Expo against the Lich, and it's doing pretty well. So, I don't know, like, I kind of feel like Mercedes' artifact is only gonna nerf a little bit, but also have no imprint, which sucks. But yeah, I think this build's pretty good for no imprints. I usually see people with this attack with max imprint, so I'd be at like 2.8 with imprint, which I feel like is actually pretty good. But yeah, Mercedes is definitely fun unit. So Milim is a work in progress right now. I wish I had her built for the season, but I feel like this is kind of the nail in the coffin for Landy, because a lot of people stopped picking Landy that I noticed, and I guess because they were just scared of Mercedes and Charlotte's coming out in bad times in drafts, and it got really bad. So also Bellion doesn't help. AOL strips stealth. No, usually strips stealth leaves. Wait, no, it leaves the. It leaves the stealth actually. I'm pretty sure, but Yeah, I feel like once I can get Milim up and running, it's gonna be huge. I won't have to deal with Violet as much anymore because she has her built-in evasion plus symbol. I'd be at like 16% chance to hit him, which I mean that's literally less than an MLDB, right? Not to mention too that what was I gonna say? I don't even remember, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Just I think counter build can work. Just it's a really high stat requirement, so that's kind of what I'm working towards right now. A lot of this gear is not up to snuff. Maybe this, and that's it. Because this rolled terribly. This isn't rolling well. This isn't even rolled, and this rolled like crap. So I'm definitely gonna want to get Milim up and running, but currently I just don't have the gear for it. So she's like relegated to PvE duty. But I think the big shout for running Milim on Bruiser build is actually getting higher defense than HP, and that's kind of how you get her her ratios going. Just because most of her damage is when she's stealthed, so she misses, she's gonna take less damage. So I feel like that's gonna be the wave. Politis is on Viella to what is it? It was to deal with something I don't remember. Rand. Yeah, to deal with Rands. So I faced a good amount of cleave teams this season. Why am I so nasally? Because I just woke up, I guess. Yeah, I faced a good amount of cleave teams this season, and a lot of them kind of struggled into RB, I noticed. So having Politis be able to strip, like full strip the immunities was pretty good, because it honestly didn't matter. But I don't think she's fast enough to cut, which is the main issue. If I could speed her up, I'd speed her up to 220. Like, that's usually the benchmark where everyone's Politis is at, 200 to 220. But I feel like just because all my other units are slow, I kind of need to actually hit that 220 mark. Certain pieces just gotta go. Like, this chest piece is honestly pretty good. Like, a 28% crit, but it's got no speed. And this helmet's got pretty good stats, but no speed. And this is good stats and no speed. This neck is just horrible. So I'm gonna be looking into getting more speed gear in the coming future. I just finished. I didn't just finish, but I set up a Wyvern one-shot team finally. So it's kind of huge for me to be able to farm Wyvern again. Carrot I like never used. I never really liked her playstyle. I find it very inconsistent to rely on burns in a meta with 15% and FCC, but I probably could have used her more. Because there were some cases where I had the FCC and I didn't know what fire DPS to pick, and I always just picked Mercedes because I liked her more. So maybe in the future I'll start looking into drafting Carrot. The high crit build's actually kind of nice for shredding through FCC barriers, because you'll do enough damage and burn them. But I don't know if I feel like I have too low attack for the burns to do anything, from my experience. But I also have like run into carrots that I feel like have less attack than me, because they have more bulk than me too, but they have less attack than me, and I just blow up. So I don't know. Again, I have a lot of things to look into on my account. So Choux was a theory craft. She's ungeared now. Clarissa's for the one-shot team. This gear's effing hard as F to get, and it took me so long of fine-tuning my Clarissa just to be able to one-shot first wave. Luna, a lot of Expo right now, but she does get used sometimes for PvP, as you can see around that AE. Oops. Lifesteal set's just like a remnant of an old build where she had to keep her HP above 50% for her passive to work properly. They recently changed that, so I probably don't even need a lifesteal set anymore. I could go for like a speed set, go for like 200 speed. Yeah, I could probably do that. Or I could go speed set 200, or like around the speed point up with attack boots. But yeah, I feel like Luna's actually like pretty decent in this meta. The fact that she has that that nuke on S3, which gives her a soul burn for her S1. It's honestly pretty strong. Like, she is one of the better single target nukers in the game if you have to nuke 2 targets, because her molds are pretty good, and her soul gen is pretty good. So just it kind of sucks that she needs a booster, because 160 isn't enough, and even if you get 200, you can use it in RTA, but that still sometimes isn't enough. So yeah, Merciless Gun is also to push follow-up units. Usually in Guild War it would be Sinji, just to block revives. Rem, I have a squishier Rem. So I went for a higher attack model just because I felt like she didn't do that much damage. Like, sure, a lot of her damage comes from repeated hits, and it's kind of just like it's a slow burn type of build for a lot of them. But I feel like the bulk never really mattered either. But I guess that's just because I have a lot of injury units. So like these 20 attack or 20k HP rems ended up being at the same level as my rem at 15k in a couple turns. So I guess like a differing viewpoint type of thing. I need a better ring. I feel like this ring has really low bulk stats, but it has good crit damage. So I would need a ring that rolled into HP more instead of defense. But I think the ring is still pretty good. So I also have no imprints. I'm probably gonna slate her just to get that 99.7 crit. So because there have been times where she sometimes misses crits and it kind of sucks. But usually it's not that bad. I don't think I've lost her. I'm missing a crit, but I don't really draft her in situations where I need her to crit 24/7. Like it's usually against Bellion and stuff like that, where she'll just counter a shit ton anyways. Sigrid's on a one shot. SSB on injury. So some people may know that I've been an injury SSB owner for the longest time since KD's 11 came out. I sat there for like the first 2-ish weeks dumping all my energy into injury sets for SSB, and I don't really regret it, to be honest. Like, it kind of sucks that KD's 13 came out and then it became easier to farm KD's, but I feel like I had a bunch of the ice cubes saved up after that, just to equipment conversion for a good while until K60 came out, and then the prevalence of pen set came into the meta. I don't know if you noticed, but some of my units are in fact on pen set. My Luna is, my Sigret is. Actually, I think that's like one of them. That's kind of it. I don't have a lot of pen set units, but I did see the value in pen set. It's a budget def break on every attack, so it is going to be a decent increase in damage. So farming KD's early definitely wasn't a waste to me. The revenge sets suck though. But yeah, SSB, I'm honestly really happy with her build. She's actually has too much effectiveness right now because I was farming KD's before. But yeah, that's usually what she looks like for PvP. I think these stats are actually pretty good. Decent attack, good crit rate, crit damage. It's not 100%, which is kind of yikes, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. It does an SSB with drink on an injury. It gets to a point where everything just kind of dies anyways, or she dies first. Dizzy, I drafted actually a couple times in RTA. In this meta, there are some drafts where Dizzy actually becomes available. For example, I did have one game with a Landy, Landy, Politis, Charlotte, and FCC, and Dizzy actually kind of carried that game because they went first. They took turn 1 because my Dizzy's like low speed, and then all their immunities fell off, and then Dizzy S3 knocked the Landy out of stealth and nerfed every other unit, and then I just killed the Landy, and then eventually everything just died. So I feel like Dizzy has become one of those pocket pick units where when the time for her appears, she can absolutely carry the game, but I don't think she's worth having the best of the best gear on. Like, yeah, she still has an 85 neck. So I guess it just enforces what I'm talking about. Like, she doesn't need the best of the best gear, but she does her job. Montmo is like not built. Angelica I'm stripping. Diene. Okay, so Diene was a unit that I actually stripped for Emilia, which we'll get into in a second. Like, a lot of her good gear went to Emilia, but I feel like Diene is actually kind of coming back in the meta. Anti-crit is really huge, and if with Milim, if you put Milim on her own artifact, anti-crit plus evasion is really good double checks for her to get her artifact to proc. And even on turn 1, like before, or I guess it'd be turn 0, but before she gets her turn, having the anti-crit up could save her life and allow her to buff up. So I see the value in it. Counter build's kind of meh. I'm missing the speed, to be honest. Like, if I could have the 180 200 speed mark on Diene, I'd be very happy with the counter build. I just don't have it right now. And a lot of my gear isn't rolling speed anymore. Sag. So I'm just kind of making do with what I got. Alright, Emilia. So this Emilia is kind of weird. Right, I do switch our imprint back and forth. I'll just put it on self because it's 180 on the dot. So this Emilia is kind of weird. It's lower speed because it's on counter, obviously, but it's got decently high effect resistance and decent bulk. So the thought process is that I don't really need her cutting anything. And most of my DPS are sub 150, so the boost is still valuable. So I kind of dropped speed. Like, a lot of her gear does have good speed, right? Like, this is 13, this is 16, this is 11, this is 17, this is 9. This one isn't as good, but it rolled well. So yeah, I thought that dropping speed is okay, going for more bulk and FRES. FRES honestly saves me a lot, because there are some times where I use her as my AOL counter in games, because she'll hit 200, close to 200 FRES with like a C armament or something. I found value in that. So honestly, I think I'm done with Emilia, like changing her gear, because I think this is like a really good build on counter. The heals actually are pretty decent. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this build. So I'm probably just gonna leave her here. Really fun unit, and I'm glad she's not OP like any of the OP and annoying like any of the other ones, like Rem and Rimuru and stuff. Alencia I drafted a couple times into Rem, and it honestly worked pretty well. I feel like Alencia is a heavy MOA investment unit, and it really sucks to invest MOAs in this unit, because for the most part you're going S2, S3. Like, I literally had to MOA this S1 because of Rem with a sliver of HP, and then I tilted and I lost. Yeah, because she's a very high MOA investment unit. All of her last MOAs are plus 15 damage, which she needs as an HP scaling bruiser. So 200 speed's okay. It's faster than a lot of my tanks, but the thought process is behind that is that I can strip buffs that would prevent my tanks from doing a little bit of damage, just because I actually do have bruiser tanks. Like, a lot of them are bruiser builds. So yeah, I mean, I feel like she's gonna be decent in this meta, to be honest. She might come back just a little bit as a niche pocket pick, which is good to have. I do kind of like niche pocket pick units. So this is a meta I kind of enjoyed on, like, in theory. Like, I enjoyed the back and forth picking meta units, or just picking units type of thing. But the actual units in the meta I hated with a passion. Yufine's on a counter build. It's mainly just PvE at this point. I tried her for the that one invincibility Yufine meme. My voice. Yeah, I tried her for that one meme. It never worked out for me, so she's kind of just been stuck on this build. It's still better than her old build though, which was like some weird bruiser destruction set, but it still had no damage and no bulk. Charles is stripped. Falconer Kluri I used in one fight and she got banned. But Falconer Kluri I feel like is still one of those units where you want to have her built. But you just need speed on her. And that is speed that I don't have. Like, sure, this ring is 21, but every other piece of speed is really bad. So, I feel like if you're going to build Falconer Kluri, you need speed gear for her. And I don't have speed gear, so it sucks. But I see a lot of value in picking her. She has a Death Break and a Provoke, and you can do that on things like Rem on turn 1 and just tunnel her down. Because there are a lot of fights where you have to focus the Rem, but she's surrounded by mitigation. And it gets really hard to tunnel her when she's getting healed and has damage mitigation and barriers and all that jazz. So I feel like Falconer Kluri really does help deal with that. Just I don't have the gear to be using her. Where is my max Elbrus? Oh, it's on Valiant. Mort's ungeared because I have that unit. Baiken's on one-shot gear. Celine, okay. So Celine is a unit that I'm trying gear on. I started building her kind of late in this season, around the same time as Charlotte, and she's been taking more of my priorities because, again, I like Celine more than Charlotte. And I'm going for like a lifesteal build as like a budget Violet. So I'm trying it out. A lot of your gear wasn't 90'd. Like, I just recently 90'd these boots like today, and then this ring is relatively new. So I don't really know what her damage ceiling is, but it doesn't do a neglectable amount of damage with this low attack. Like, I remember I hit an LQC with Aureus for like 8k, which doesn't sound good, don't get me wrong, but it's 8k with a push. I didn't have attack buff, I didn't get attack buff to proc, so it's 8k with a push on a DPS unit, and that was on one of the tankier DPS units. It was on an LQC who has 30% innate crit resistance, and that was before this was when I was like 3.2k attack. So now that my attack is going up, I can see her doing more damage. I'm not saying she's going to be one-shotting LQCs, but she's going to be chunking a lot of the meta DPS. Things like LQC, Rem, I don't let Violet through ever, so he's not going to be a factor. Or even if they have a niche DPS units, I feel like Celine just hits them, and if she hits, she's chunking them. Which is kind of like the main deal. And in Cleave, she's still killing anything. Like, you're not going to run into a Cleave that has bruiser units. Unless you're me, I guess, and you get tank cleaved, but that's a different issue. Yeah, I'm from my experience, the lifesteal's actually kind of nice too, because if she gets hit kind of hard and then they do a non-attack skill, she'll go back to full HP usually. And then plus the S3, she lifesteals a lot of HP. Serious PvE, Landy. So it's been really hard to draft Landy. As I was saying, it's same issue as why other people, I guess, didn't draft Landy, is that Milim's now here, so her stealth is gone, she gets one tapped, and Charlotte's always been there, making her unhealable and knocking her out of stealth repeatedly. Carrot's been there just to burn her and just make her blow up. So Mercedes can counter her S3. Like, there's a lot of fire units that have come into the meta that really hurt Landy. So I don't know, because I literally spent so much time farming this lifesteal gear, and now I don't think it's a good build anymore. Like, it has its niche uses, same with like a counter build, for example, but I feel like just going back to speed is the play, you know, because just she needs to be taking turns. Like, at this speed, she gets hit by everything, and sometimes she might even get lapped by a Milim, but I don't know. I've never actually faced a Milim against my Landy yet. Vivian's on Asmanic, Rowanna's on Rowanna gear. LQC, okay, so I was happy with this build for the longest time, and then Shuffles, I played Shuffles twice, and I brought out LQC once, and then he clowned me for not using Scythe. So I'm gonna be trying to roll the helmet with these stats but more crit, which is a very tall ask. But I'm literally in the process of rolling a helmet right now. I think it's this one. So I don't know where this helmet's gonna go, but if I hope it rolls like attack max roll, and then something like HP, like double rolls HP high, but that's asking for a lot. Because this build is 2-2, right? This helmet's 2-2, 2 attack, 2 HP, by the looks of it. And that's going to be really hard to come across on a heroic piece. So it might be the case where I'm only going to fix my LQC if I get an epic helmet that rolls well. Because all my other pieces kind of do have decent crit rate. So it's not like I can really change these and squeeze some crit rate out of it. Maybe this, but I don't really run hunts. Right? Like I was before, I didn't really run Banshee. So actually this is decent. How much defense does this have? Is that 20 defense? Yeah, but then I lose like a really big chunk of bulk. So I don't know. It's gonna be really hard to find the helmet that I'm looking for, but I feel like it'd be really worth it for her. Just because she is a super meta unit now that Ravi, I don't know why, but she just shot up in the meta. Like she went from like oh yeah, she's pretty good to oh my god, first pick her type of unit. Which I thought was kind of crazy. But fortunate to have LQC and Ravi, so I had both those options. And yeah, I'm looking to changing her build a little bit. Injury Bellion, I finished kinda recently. She's missing 390s, but I'm not quite too happy with her build right now. This ring is literally horrible, so I'm definitely not 90ing that. These boots are just mediocre roll. They literally look like they look like heroics. So I'm gonna 90 just to fill her out. And because these stats will probably be hard to get on different boots, and this neck is just meh. It's a crit neck. So it's gonna be kind of hard finding a ring that has HP, defense, crit damage, and maybe speed, and for it to roll well. Which is the main issue, because a lot of my gear isn't rolling well. And I spend so much time farming KDs, which sucks because I hunt sucks, and it just doesn't really drop shit. But Albrus and Injury Beline is definitely the move. I faced I faced Shotgun Shogun with Bellion SSB and APOC Ravi into a Rowanna LRK, and I won just because there was so much injury stacking up. And I feel like that's kind of the wave with Bellion, because one of her big counters is Rowanna, but if you end up stacking too much, if you stack too much counters to her, she won't do enough damage to actually kill her. And that's where the other units that are usually Predator come in. They usually will just clean up what's left. C Armin is kind of tuned with my Landy. She was 250. C Armin is 247. I wish I could drop speed, but I literally have like no speed anywhere. I guess I could reforge out that speed and then reforge it back in when I need it. Actually, I guess that would be the thing to do, right? Just because like this is pretty decent. I can just roll defense in here. I don't have any defense percent. I'll roll defense later. But I think Crimson Armin is actually quite tanky. Like I didn't realize how thick she was. So a little bit of effectiveness, but it's not enough to really matter. It's just like I had extra stats that I wanted to put somewhere, and I was like, I might as well just have it in effectiveness, because I'm taking away speed. So yeah, I'm quite happy with her build. She does tanking perfectly fine. You're never gonna be able to do damage because she skills on defense, from my experience. Even then, good luck hitting these stats with this effective resistance on a bruiser build. If you could do it, bravo to you. Why are you not in Legend? So, LRK on lifesteal. People have questioned me on this a lot, but let me just go through my thought process real quick, right? LRK on this speed is not taking turn 1, so he's gonna be taking some damage. And he's gonna be taking damage, and he's gonna be taking back, or he's gonna be healing back damage through lifesteal. And then I also usually pair him with SSB. So if he doesn't get hit, he is a pseudo self-sustained tank because of lifesteal that does damage. So that was kind of the thought process behind why I built him on lifesteal, because I couldn't hit the speed mark for a lot of the usual LRKs. A lot of them sit at like 220, and I don't have that speed gear on tank gear. That's why my ARAS is so slow. So I settled for a kind of a slower build with more stats pumped other places. So I'm kind of happy with this build. Crit rate, like, I did go for crit rate and I did go for FRES, but I couldn't get it to a spot where I actually liked. So I'm definitely gonna be like going, like, I have to farm a lot of Banshee anyways because of Milim. So I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for better gear. Like, this ring sucks. Like, this ring sucks. But actually, I feel like it's just holding back the build, which is this fucking ring. But yeah, I'm gonna be on the lookout for a better, if I can get better lifesteal gear. But I feel like a lot of this gear is actually pretty decent. Like, as you saw, like, a lot of it's rolled super high in HP, and if it's not rolled high in HP, it's rolled in something else that he needs. Surin is kind of benched. Like, I didn't think I pulled her out. I pulled her out once, actually, into a cleave team, and it worked barely. So with a lot of these AoE setups in the meta, it's really hard to draft her. But maybe you can draft her into this area just because if she wants to detonate bombs, she has to AoE, and usually that could be the hit that puts her into stealth. It really depends on if the Rand is built well or not. If the Rand is built high damage, then she'll get knocked in by the first hit and then unstealthed on the second hit, and then usually just dies on the third hit to like the follow-up cleave or something. So it kind of sucks. But at the same time, if you build her tanky enough to actually not get chunked hard by a Rand, she's not going to do enough damage to clean up the team. So it's a balancing act, and I'm not even saying my Tempest Surin is that good, because it's really not. She's just holding my basket because I don't have a fast RB. So yeah, I mean, she's decent. She does her job, just it's kind of hard. Like, her job is really hard to come by. Another use unit. Lidica, I don't have speed gear, so she's just kind of unusable for me, even though she's my waifu. Feels bad. AOL, I have her on counter build because I'm a terrorist. Kick W. A lot of people have been questioning why I put AOL on counter, and if you saw my RTA video about the infinite silence game that I had, that's why. I was curious if you counter a unit if the buff is applied on their turn or directly after their turn. So I found out it's directly after their turn. So both C Armin can perma provoke and AOL can perma silence. And that makes for a pretty decent control team that actually still functions. Because a lot of the issues with the control teams is that if they miss their debuff, you lose. And that's still the case for AOL. But at least when you try to tunnel her, you might just get silenced. And that actually matters a lot, because then you're forced to S1 on turns where you should be S3ing to kill everything else. So Spirit's Breath, 90%, just so she could cycle and turn and spam it and stuff. Bulk's okay, I think, for this speed on counter. I think I calculated that my speed average is 15 or so, But I remember calculating that if you can get 20 speed average, I think you get to 250 speed, which would be like crazy insane. If you can get 20 speed average on an AOL encounter, and you can still have good stats, then man, you are a god at rolling speed gear. Sage Bell, I actually started using a lot more closer to Emp, just because there are a lot of cleavers running around up there, and he does really well into Caesarea cleave because they don't stack enough buffs. A lot of Rans end up going for damage artifacts instead of Silver Rain, and he's able to cut sometimes and then sleep the whole team. And then by that point, you've already lost. Like, if Bao takes the turn on a cleave, team, you lose. Unless you have 15% in. Which happened once. I got resisted on... Yeah, it was like a Ran... It was Ran, Flan, Arby, and Landy. And my Bell slept Ran after he did his S3. Slept Flan because he S1'd. And then I got resisted on the Landy, and then it didn't proc on the RB. So that was a really close game, but I still won it. Just I'm not really, like, he was doing okay. I'm just kind of not happy with this gear, right? So I might go for like an AOL style gear with like mid, or actually probably closer to Dizzy. Or I go like middle of the line effectiveness, but I also splash some effect resistance in there. But I'm not really rolling speed gear right now. Well, I mean, I will be in the future, just during this hunt event, because I'll be farming not Banshee. I'll be farming Wyvern, I think. So he might get an upgrade in the near future. A lot of this gear is old gear from when Bao first. Did he get buffed, or I don't even remember. But when Bao first came back into the meta, so he just planned on sitting here. He's still on a 78 chest piece, but it rolled really well. Silverblade Araminth is really hard to use in this meta, and I don't have Spez, so I have literally no need to use her in this meta, so she just sits here. Eventually she'll get better gear, but AOL is taking a lot of it, because I do take the same amount of gear. But if I do get like hand-me-down gear, then I'll definitely give it to her, like, because this sword's pretty good, but that's kind of it. Everything else is just meh. Maid Chloe, okay, so for anyone who's played RTA, they know how popular Maid Chloe is, and it's kind of nice having Maid Chloe, but at the same time, I found a lot of people at higher ranks have BMH. Like, I feel like BMH is one of those units where if you have him, he's probably a must build just because of how many Maid Chloes you'll end up running into along your journey. And it's honestly a must ban. Like, I think I've only drafted Maid into BMH and won once or twice. And like every other time I lose, because I don't think I'm usually not able to sustain through the damage. I'm not able to do enough damage in time before one of my units die, and then he gets the shield, and by that point the game is over, because it's very hard to sustain through the shield and the 7k nuke that comes with it on his S3 for one turn to actually wait for the barriers to fall off and then actually go again. Because the thing is with BMH is that once he gets that shield, he does S3, and now his team's probably back to full health. So you're sitting there with a 30% HP unit because of Maid Revive, and he's sitting there with a full health team. So it is kind of hard to deal with, but that's just one of the things that comes with picking Maid. If they have BMH, it's almost a must ban. But I'm honestly kind of happy with this build. A little bit of effectiveness. I do stun Soul Weavers sometimes, which is funny. Like, I've stunned Crows, I've stunned Ruels. It can happen, because Ruels aren't built with super high effectiveness, and if they are, it's usually 120. Like, most most tanks and stuff hover from 120 to 150. I can catch those with this build. I can catch a decently built Ruel, or like a tank, like a Crow with a stun on a low chance. And something I was theory crafting is that I want to try and get my bulk up a little bit. Like, I'm probably going to try and get a chest piece similar to this, but I can actually reforge. And then I wanted to go for Shuna's artifact. And the thought process behind, I think it's literally on Shuna right now, isn't it? Oh my god, it is. Where is it? Can I not see it? Am I just blind? Okay, whatever, I'll just go into this. Yeah, I was gonna go this on her. And that sounds weird, because you're like, why wouldn't you use any decent Soul Weaver artifact? Like, no Shamadra, no Water's Origin like I'm using currently, because she is kind of low bulk, right? But I mean, if I do end up getting that chest piece that I'm looking for, that has the like 1 roll in speed and maybe the 2 rolls in defense and HP that roll high, that matters if it rolls high, then I think I'm good on bulk. And then I'll hit the 200 effect resistance because this is not rolling max. I will be at 160, passive will bring me to 180, and then that'll bring me to 200, that artifact, if it's massively broken. So I'll be at 200 effect resistance, and then after 3 turns, I'm at 100 effectiveness. So Maid Chloe fights usually do end up going long, so having a maid with 100 effectiveness in a long fight like that is huge, monumental. Because that makes it that you're likely to stun tanks and Soul Weavers, instead of you might stun them. So if I get that artifact math, it's definitely something I'm gonna try. It's definitely a degen build, but I think it's worth it. She has built-in effectiveness awakened, so you might as well try to take a little bit of advantage out of it, right? I think 30 effectiveness like in your gear is not that hard to get. Like, what? This is 6, this is 12, that's 18, and that's all my effectiveness. It's like, what, 1 to 2 rolls, and I think that's fine. Like, her bulk's a little bit low, but I don't really find a case for Water's Origin or anything. If she's getting tunneled, she usually will just die anyways. So the only thing that might kind of suck is that if she counters and stuns something, my tanks will actually cut her at this speed point. So that's kind of lame, but besides that, I don't think it really matters, because if our tanks are cutting, then that means the unit was stunned, and I guess it fastens up the game and lets me to do damage a little bit more. I don't know if my FCC will do more damage with or without attack, but probably will do less. But it's the thought that really matters. That once the unit is stunned, you want everyone to go and take advantage of that stun before that unit shakes it off. So I'll definitely try it. Ruel is holding my Guardian Snow Crystal. I don't know where to put that artifact. Like, it's a really good artifact, right? 15 effect resistance and a pretty big heal once per turn on a unit. And that's kind of why I put it on Ruel, because Ruel, it's really hard to sustain multiple units at the same time because both her heals are on relatively long cooldowns. Like, this is a 3 cooldown, this is a 4 cooldown. I don't even know that long. They're not that long. But they're single target heals, which is an issue because if you take like a really heavy nuke, right? Your Aureus holder is feeling pain, and your DPS are feeling pain, and then you just have, like, you're stuck in a situation where you don't know who you're supposed to heal. Will your tank live the next turn? Like so imagine you have a Crow, right? Will your Crow live the next turn to horse? Will your DPS not get tunneled? Like, it's a balancing act, and I felt like Ruel was kind of hard to use for that reason, because if it's like a cleave team, or it's just like a super heavy AoE team, you have to make the decision of who you're healing and if it's the right person to heal. Because if you make the wrong choice, your team falls apart fast. Like, if you have 3 units that are low HP, but they're all important, who do you keep alive? Like, sometimes the best play is letting both of them die and then just leaving Ruel alive. But sometimes the best play is to let them both die and have your DPS live. Like, both your tank and your Ruel die and have the DPS live. I don't know. I feel like Guardians of also kind of mitigates that with the heal. But also, Ruel was coming back a lot into Rimuru first pick drafts. So I did this too, where sometimes if people picked Rimuru and LQC into my secondary picks being APOC, Ravi, and FCC, you can draft Ruel because they sometimes don't have enough damage to kill APOC twice before she takes another turn. So, or before LQC gets her nuke back up. So that was actually kind of interesting that actually became like a meta strategy, but countered by BMH, right? Countered by BMH, countered by Sinji, countered by an extinction unit, but those aren't really in the meta, to be honest. It's very hard to find an extinction unit that can actually nuke out an APOC Ravi. So yeah, I'm quite surprised that Ruel came back in the meta. I'm definitely happy she did though, just because she's been on this gear, sitting there in my box, collecting dust for the longest time, and it finally feels good to be able to use her again. I noticed like during like the end, like whenever you get close to the end of the season, a lot of people pick Ruel, just because they're scared of losing and they're trying to climb. Like, I don't blame them, but Ruel's one of those units where it's fun to use, it's not fun to fight, because she's tanky as fuck, and she has heals, and she has a revive. So, I don't know. She's one of those units that you should probably keep gear on, because she'll always be in and out of the meta. Yeah, APOC was the star of the show this season, to be honest. I think she was like one of the only consistent meta units this whole season. Because I believe at the beginning of the season it was the carrot meta, and then we transitioned into RNG meta. But APOC Ravi was good throughout that, I feel. I mean, she got her buff with Violet, and then that was it. She was up there. And I was really happy because APOC was my first ML5. I got her when they introduced the Mystic Pity system, and they refunded a bunch of Mystic medals. And I've had gear on her ever since. And the pen set, like, everyone started hopping on the pen set train, and then I did it because I was already farming KDs. And yeah, I'm really happy with this build, to be honest. Like, if I could, I'd like to get my defense up, but I feel like that'd be kind of hard. Like, maybe I can roll some defense somewhere, but a lot of this crit chance is actually necessary. Like, I'm literally 0% off cap. Like, I can pull it up right now. Like, this has no effectiveness, and I'm 6 off. So this is literally a perfect 100% crit on APOC. And that does kind of suck. If I'm not mistaken, Crimson Seed actually does give more HP to APOC, but I don't think it's enough to warrant to really matter. And then people make the argument for Timeless versus Seed, and I'm personally an Anchor subscriber. I prefer Anchor over Seed. I feel like it's very easy for her to get overwhelmed with buffs if you're on Seed, because they proc it once and then they just go ham on the debuffs. But Timeless Anchor sometimes, like, I've had Cleave, like, I've faced Cleave with APOC, and I've had it to where she's seeded, or she's cleansed one of the bombs and the death break, and then lives the Caesarea cleave. So I know that's a low chance of happening, but you want all the RNG you can get, right? So what, in that situation, Seed would have cleansed the death break, but I still would have got stunned. And Ravi getting stunned as a cleave team, you're probably not in a good spot, because your whole team's dying around you, you're stunned, you're not taking your turn. It sucks. Designer Lilibet I've been using a little bit. I draft her into Caesarea Cleaves a little bit, just because it gets kind of inconsistent. She has the same issue with like a lot of the units that or like Designer Lilibet the same issue that she always had, where it's very hard to control when she gets her push. And when she gets her push, she sometimes just gets stunned or silenced. So I feel like a Mediator Cowrick level buff would be really good, to where like if she gets immunity after she does her push, or if she dispels buff duration or debuff duration by 1 turn on herself when she has her S3 available, like she needs something. And that sucks because I really do like Lilibet. She was one of the units that I really enjoyed. When she first released, I was like, whoa, she looks so cool. And I think like the whole story of her and Top Model Luluca is like really nice. It's really funny. And kind of sucks that one of them doesn't, they both don't see play anymore, really. So yeah, I feel like Lilibet really needs a buff. I'll be very happy if she gets one. I'm looking into changing her onto pen set, but rolling gear with high defense kind of is rough. So it's a work in progress, but if I can get it, I'll be very happy. Here's the FCC bruiser build I was talking about. High crit damage, decent bulk, low attack. So there are some people who, like, they say that if you want to run a bruiser FCC, you need 200 attack. I honestly kind of agree. FCC really does need high attack to do her bruiser things, because her attack scaling with her HP scaling is really good. So if I get an attack buff, I do a lot of damage, but I want her to do a little bit more damage without attack buff, because you don't always have attack buff. So again, I don't farm a lot of Wyvern, but in the near future, obviously I'm going to be rolling gear. If I get better gear, then that'll be wonderful, but I don't know how long that's gonna take. So like, I'm definitely not gonna hit the 200 attack, right? That's just not happening. Like, unless I replace this helmet too. But yeah, the 200 attack's probably not happening, but I will be able to hit like 1600, 1700 maybe, because that neck would have been way better, but I actually screwed up the reforge a little bit, because I would have had like this level attack, yeah, and that would do way more damage. So it kind of sucks. I meant to roll away the effect resistance, and then I was tired one day and I was like, oh, I need attack, it's a CC, but I don't need the effect resistance either. Arbiter Vildred on degen build, so he's a high damage degen build. Those are kind of falling out now with Milim, because she just punches him in the face twice and then he's extinct. But I feel like it's still okay into cleave teams. This high damage counter degen build has saved me so many times against cleave teams, just because they're doing so many AoEs that he counters, and if he counters, he's hitting you for a lot of damage, to a point where one counter will literally make it so that he can possibly solo the team. With one counter, you're hitting for like 5k to 10k, like 5 to 7k no attack buff, right? And against a cleave team, that's like half your health. And then he'll come back, he'll kill those units that he countered, and then now you're stuck with half your team against an RB that can sweep you, like can do his S3 again. So that's kind of the thought process behind Arbiter Vildred on this type of build against cleave teams, because it usually doesn't matter. Like if he takes a turn, you probably won anyways. But yeah, I'm really happy with this build. If I had Shepherd of Chaos, or Shepherd of the Hollow, I would use it. But in classic Jin fashion, both the friends I have that got into this game through me have it with their meta units. Like one of them has Closer Charles, and the other one has Remnant Violet. And I don't have either of those units, and I don't have the artifact, so I'll just go cry. But I do want to see if MLDB or Shepherd is better. Archdemon Shadow is kind of just mainly Guild War unit. This build's like really not good. I never found a situation where I'm like, yeah, let's draft Archdemon Shadow in RTA. Never found it. Last season I did. This season I didn't. Maybe it's because a lot of these units are like high effect resistance, or their counters don't, like their passives aren't too valuable. Like Rem doesn't get demon mode if she gets sealed, but good luck sealing her. Because you're going to be taking so much heat. If you miss the seal, you're done. Because you might not take another turn after that point. And like, sure, this is uncounterable, but the seal not being 100% chance really hurts her. Like really hurts her. So I don't know. See, Dom's not used. Specter Tenebria was a unit that I drafted here and there. It's really hard to pick Stene because Bellion exists, and people just pick Bellion for the sake of picking her, not even as a counter pick. So it gets really hard to draft Stene. But in the games where she's good, she is actually really good. Who would have thought? So again, Stene's one of those units where I feel like you have to have her geared at all times because she is unreplaceable in her niche. Of they draft too many single target damage, you have a tanky team, you draft Stene, it's rather a force ban or it's a DPS race. And usually Stene wins those because she has a soul burn to give an extra turn and a nuke. So yeah, I do need to change my Stene a little bit. Her HP is really low. I want to change it, but this ring is horrible and I need to reforge and mod away some stuff on this neck. So definitely still a work in progress a little bit, but she's usable at this point, which is good. Like I don't like you having units that aren't usable. Like I feel like I'm not gonna finish, like I'm not gonna take a unit in if they can't do their job. I say that as I had Celine on scuffed gear and not 90s, but she did her job just sitting there deterring units. So yeah, Tamarin PvE, Rose I built for PvP, but I haven't found a situation where I can use her. Because a lot of... First of all, Closer Charles does her job better, which sucks. Second of all, it's a non-attack skill. So Politis kinda sucks. Third of all, Emilia does her job. And more. So, I don't know. Rose is kind of hard to draft. I feel like there'll come a day where I get to use her because I really like her. She was one of the units that I always wanted to build, and I finally was able to build her. So, yeah. There will come a day where I'm able to use Rose. Kisei I built during the carrot fiasco when everyone was freaking out about carrot. And then I realized I don't have good speed gear. So I gave up on building Kisei. She's really good in the new Light Expo, actually. So people who have Kiseis built for PvP are laughing it up in that new expo, but I am not one of them. And it's gotten to a point where I kind of don't want to invest the molas in her anymore. So kind of sucks. She's still a very decent pick, just I haven't done it. Okay, so here's one of the stars, right, of weird builds. Scuffed ass Rimuru. I'm gonna see if I can find the old build I had on him, like when I first started using him. But it was bad. Like I mean, okay, it wasn't bad, right? It was a different type of build. I don't think the helmet had speed. It was a different type of build. Let's just say that. And then I think I had someone else's boots. I don't even remember whose boots I had. But I had speed boots. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember. I really remember taking it off immediately and then forgetting about it. So it wasn't this helmet, but it was around this. Yeah, but it was like 250 speed. And I found varying success with the build. Was it this one? Yeah, okay. I had max crit because I'm on a comment, but it was a build like this, and it was like super high speed. And I'll keep looking to see if I can actually find the boots in the meantime. But it was like a super high speed build, and although it wasn't horrible, like I found that him being at 250 while my A was at 230 actually was kind of good, because if I drafted them both in the same draft, I could steal the buffs and then strip them off the enemy. So that was nice. But at the same time, he had no bulk, did no damage, and yeah. The thing with Rimuru is that you kind of do want some bulk on him, because if you do get outsped, you don't want him just getting one-tapped. Like, I found that there were a couple fights where I got outsped by top model Luluca, and he died at that bulk. So that kind of sucked. But yeah, I feel like the 200 build is probably the 200 to 220 build is the best way to go. If you can get it on speed set, that's probably more realistic. I am a neckbeard who wants everything on counter, so I'm gonna try for the 220 build on counter with decent bulk and damage, which is a very tall ask. This hunt event, I'm gonna be farming a lot of hunts. I'm gonna be farming a lot of Banshee, a lot of Wyvern, and a lot of Katie's, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm lucky or unfortunate that 2 out of the 3 hunts are one-shots, so I might just go farm like 10k claws, 10k essence, and then put the rest into Katie's. Because I'm pretty sure the hunt event's only 1 day, right? So I will have to find out where I'm gonna farm. Destina is just kind of sitting there. I'm trying out BBK on Revenge set. I feel like counter is probably the better play if I'm going to be going for a build like this, but I want her to have a little bit of speed, so I don't know if she'll have the damage without it. BBK came back in the meta with her immortality. Like, it was quite huge, actually. With Rimuru running around, it kind of sucks because he can steal the the immortality, and the BBK is useless again. But if there is a team where she can do her thing, then it's really good. So I'm just gonna finish rolling this now just to see where it goes. It'd be very great if it goes into crit rate. That's what I need right now. You can go crit. F. Okay, that actually really sucks because that means that's 2 rolls and effect resistance. But yeah, I'm gonna try Revenge set because I feel like speed set kind of sucks. Okay, no, it doesn't suck. I just don't have many speed DPS gears, and I feel like Revenge set also works really well with their passive. Just something that I've been thinking about, that I feel like it'd be cool if Revenge set gave attack as well, but that might be busted. So I don't know. I feel like that'd be a buff to Revenge set that'd be okay. Like, if it gave just like base 10% attack and then it scaled up to like 20% attack, like I feel like that'd be fine, right? And that also helped BBK a lot. It kind of reinforced that this hunt is the niche. If you want single target damage, you gotta farm Pen. If you want to make your AoEs useful, you go injury. And if you want to go for a low HP scaling or well, not low HP, but a low HP nuker, you go revenge. Like I feel like that'd be a good niche for Katie's. But I feel like apparently I'm a minority. Celia is for expos. Summer Zaria, I don't have speed gear, so I can't build her. I'll show you what I'm working with right now on my build, but yeah, it's kind of rough. So I'm trying to go for like a build like YD has, which is obviously hard to do because it's YD, but I'm probably gonna take Flan's helmet and then just take the hit to effectiveness, but then I can go like attack. So something like that, and then something like this. So that'd be decent effectiveness. Oh, I didn't change the chest piece actually. Whoops. Yeah, it's like decent effectiveness, but no immunity, which kinda sucks. They're like the same thing, doesn't matter. Yeah, so it's decent effectiveness. I have to gem away the crit rate to effectiveness, and then I have imprints a little bit, so this would be a pretty decent build on a summertime. I just need to find a little bit better gear, and then I'll be happy with her. So I also need to find replacements for the gear that I'm taking away. Like Flan, I don't really care about. I don't really use Flan anymore, so it's okay for me to take her helmet and stuff. But having crit rate or crit damage kind of blows. But I mean, good luck finding a helmet that goes, was that quad effect? No, it's triple effectiveness and then 1 speed, even though lower rolled. Yeah, so definitely a work in progress. She's really good. If you have the speed gear for her, I recommend building her. I don't, so I'm just I'm kind of coasting right now. Like, she has her molas that she needs for the most part. I don't know if I'm going to do the S1. Maybe if I use her and I find she's not tripping, then I might invest in the S1. But currently, as it stands, I don't need it, obviously. Also, it feels really bad to have this artifact at plus 27 and then not use her. Chloe was for Wyvern Stripped. Crow I never liked. People who don't know me, I prefer to build waifus or high rarity units. So that means obviously waifus, any female characters, and high rarity units, as in ML5s. That's usually where I draw the line. Other than that, I'll try to use them as much as I can as 5 stars, unless I like really need them. But I felt like there were a very small handful of situations where I needed Crow, so I'm okay not building him. If you have Crow, build Crow, right? I didn't want to build Crow, so I made my life hard. Because I remember that there was a point in time where I didn't have FCC. I got her on her rerun. So my only Aureus holders, I think, were like Ras and Lilias, and that really sucked. Like, that really sucked. So I'm glad now that I built Armin and I built FCC, so now I have actually good tanks on Aureus, and yeah, that's kind of been helping me a lot. Karen's Wyvern. Cerise is actually really good in this meta, both for pivoting to Caesarea Cleave and to pick with Ravi, because she provides dual attacks, she provides death breaks, she deals with some of the problem units for Ravi a little bit, like LQC, she can stun, and then she can death break it for that turn, and then she also is good with Caesarea Cleave as a AoE that strips immunity, and then also does the decreased speed so that they can't really cut that the cleave anymore. If I had the speed gear, if you have the speed gear, I recommend building a Caesarea Cleave because it's really strong right now. The counters are very hard to come by, and even if you come by one of the counters, you can just kill everything around the counter, right? So I feel that Caesarea And units like Ran, who I didn't pull, and Cerise, and units like that are really good right now. So if you can manage them, I think it's worth. Like, I think it's worth the investment. I've had her invested for a long time, and she was one of those units that I wanted to build anyways. So I'm okay with just having her on mediocre guild, but eventually I'm gonna make her PvP viable. I just don't have enough speed gear for her to work, which is the big thing that sucks. Flan is a cleaver's wet dream. I'm not a cleaver, so she's unbuilt. Luluca I've been stripping very slowly. Elena's a unit that I want to build for anti-cleave. I just don't have the speed gear. Like, as you can tell, right? As somebody who doesn't farm Wyvern, a lot of these units require speed. And this is the issue. Like, people complain about, oh, this game, everyone just tells you to farm Wyvern. And that's because it's the universal set. If you don't know what to put someone on, you can always go speed. Speed is never a bad option. But other units, they can't. Like, counter is not the same, right? You're not gonna go counter on a tank, for example, when you can just go speed. Some people do because they're crazy, but it never does anything. So yeah, that's kind of like the big thing. Also, I don't have any high speed counter gear for Elena either, so all my high speed gear is taken. So she's been benched. I do want to build her though. I mullet her and I used her for a bit before. Sometimes during Guild War, if her niche comes up, I do throw gear on her just so that she's usable. Back when Shadow Rose and stuff was on defenses, I always loved seeing that because then I could just go Elena. Lilibet's been on this gear forever and I have not changed it. I don't think I ever will. Vildred stripped, Bellona stripped, G-Perk is unused because he's a doggo. A-Lot's at 270. I don't think this is fast enough, which is crazy because this is like some of my fastest gear. Like this is 19 on A-Lots. This is 16, but it's tied. This chest piece is 17, tied with 18 almost. This is 21. This is 21. This is the only ring holding me back. I'd be at... I don't even know what I'd be at. Add 7. So I'd be at 178. 179. Yeah. So almost 280 speed. And I still think that's not enough. Like, at the level where I'm at in Arena, I feel like you need like a 300 speed A-Lot. Which sucks, because I do not have that. So, I don't know when it's going to see use. I'm probably going to move this next to Cerise when I decide to build her. And I know building her on immunity is kind of stupid, but I don't think I'm going to have the speed gear to actually, for it to matter. And I feel like a lot of people aren't going to draft Rimuru into Cerise Cleave anyways. So... because that's the big issue if you run Guiding Light or... yeah, if you run Guiding Light or if you run Immunity on Cerise, is that Rimuru will be able to jump into you, do damage, and then steal your invincibility. So... but I mean, at the same time, if somebody knows you're cleaving, they're not gonna draft Rimuru. I feel. It's a very risky draft. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it's a bad call. So you should be fine. I run immunity on like every unit that I use for PvP for the most part, just because I value it. Like, if you noticed, my Dilibet was also on immunity. Where is she? Yeah, Dilibet was also on immunity just so that she doesn't get like random death broken, but at the same time it's also like counter, like it also like doesn't help her at all, because if she doesn't get debuffed but her whole team gets debuffed, she might not get enough debuffs to actually get her passive procced. It's a double-edged sword, but I feel like not taking useless debuffs is important. I brought Sinful Angelica out one game and I actually won, because she is a unit that you need to tunnel before she gets her passive going. If you run a revive team and you let Singelica pop her S3, you're in for a scary game. It's rather you're gonna win in 3 turns or you're gonna lose in 2. So this is just the one I use for Wyvern, but I did pull it out in RTA, and it actually did win me the fight because he had to put a lot of his S3s into her just to kill her, and then by that time it didn't matter because the other 3 units cleaned up. Maybe that was a gear gap, but yeah. It's just one of those units where if you have her, I recommend you do build her. If you can, I recommend making a Sinji that works for both PvP and PvE, just so that you can compound rolls and not have to gear multiple units. I might 6-star her. I don't know. If I ever get to the point where I'm just bored and I don't know who to 6-star, I guess she's on the list. But I've made her work for Wyvern 13 as it is on a 5-star, so I don't see the point to change that. Expo, F10A, if you have speed gear, build her. I don't have speed gear, so I can't build her, but I do in fact want to build her. She is super strong into certain drafts. If you take FCC, just slamming F10A can win you the game outright. Just because the one main counter to her is gone, which would be FCC. And there were multiple times where I was playing, they take FCC, and then they immediately picked F10A, and I was still in a bad spot. Like, even though you could pick cleansers, you have to pick cleansers. That's the issue. It's whether you ban her or you pick cleansers. So, if you have the gear for her builder, I even whipped her out at this gear level in RTA, and it worked. So, it's not impossible to use. It's just I would not recommend using. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Man, it was a whole like hour and a half going over units. And just in case people are wondering, I say I hate Violet with a passion, but I do in fact have them. It's not like I hate him because they don't have him. I just hate him, period. The only reason he's awakened is because of the Alencia the Ice. People were using him for that, the Advent side story, and I was like, maybe I can put the gear on him without 6-starring him, but I really don't want to 6-star him for PvE. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with never using him. I hate him with a passion. I always pre-bend him in RTA, and I will continue to do so until he gets nerfed. This unit's stupid. They need to do something about him. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Overall, the RTA climb was super annoying. A lot of RNG, a lot of meta shifts. It was bad. Like, if you're a low spender in F2P, this meta was not for you at all. A lot of the meta units were limiteds. Landy, Luna, and then Caesarea, and then ran into another limited in the ReZero collab, and then into another limited in Tensura. Like, this was such an unfree to play friendly season. And honestly, for light spenders, it still sucked ass. Like, I pulled for Landy imprint, and then I had to pull for Emilia imprint and Rem imprint, and then I had to pull for I pulled Caesarea, I pulled a couple of her, and then I had to pull for ReZero, and then I had to pull for Rand because she was good with Caesarea, and then you had to pull for Tensura because they're fucking meta. And it's like, it's just so much summoning in half a year that it's so unrealistic to assume people can do this. And what sucks now is that even if you were a hoarder and you stockpiled a bunch of stuff, more limiteds are coming in. Because now we're getting close to F10A's rerun. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they'll delay it? Maybe? But yeah, Cerise and F10A come back, I'm pretty sure, soon. So that's gonna be like so bad. I'm lucky that I have both of them. right? But you need to summon on Cerise banner for Guiding Light. Maybe not anymore with Milim, but... And then you also need to summon on F10 if you don't have her, because she's meta. So, like, this is just like a super heavy, like a heavy spend meta, to be honest. Like, if you didn't have... Like, I was in a chat with one of my friends in a different guild, and he didn't have FCC, he didn't have APOC, he didn't have LQC. Like, I felt bad. Like, he played more games than me, he was in Imp the whole season, and then couldn't finish in Imp. And I feel like that just feels so bad, right? Just because he didn't have the units, he wasn't able to do it. Like, obviously, like, as I said, he did hold M for most of the season, but it still just feels bad, like, to see somebody not be able to do something as easily as you did, not because they weren't as skilled or they didn't have the gear, but because they didn't have the units. And no amount of spending could get them those units. So, I don't know. I hope the next RTA season isn't as bad, but I feel like it's just going to be a continuation of this season, man. I feel like we're in a point where they need to start nerfing units. Like, I know usually they try to buff units and try not to nerf units, but I feel like they need to nerf units. Like, and I don't know if they're going to do it, because half of them are limited. So the problem units in the meta right now are Rimuru, Bellion, and Rimuru, Rem, Bellion, Violet, and probably some other things. But I feel like those are like the big outstanding units. And two of them are limited. One of them is an ML5. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do to fix this. Like, I don't think any amount of buffs is going to fix this meta. So I'm kind of worried. Oh, AOL too. Like, maybe if AOL was a one-strip buff? Maybe? But that still wouldn't really solve the issue. I find at least it wouldn't solve the issue. So, I don't know. This meta, like, really sucks, to be honest. Like, I was very lucky that I had a lot of the meta units. Like, I had Rem, I had AOL, I had Bellion, I didn't have Violet, but I don't give a shit. Violet can go eat dick. I hate that unit. Can you guys tell I don't like Violet? Yeah. So yeah, like, I feel like this, like, I don't know how many times I have to say this, like, this meta was not fun for anyone. I don't know anybody who could sit there in this meta with a smile on their face playing 300 games of RTA in a day being like, I'm having fun. Because it's just unrealistic. Like, you'll lose so many games to RNG. And if you didn't have a lot of the meta units, you had to rely on RNG. And it still feels bad. Like, obviously, if, like, the odds of it happening are in the positive, then yeah, okay, it's fair to assume it's gonna happen. Like, if a Bellion does her S1 and it hits, you'd assume Rem is gonna counter. But if it doesn't counter, it feels bad. And then if she does counter with the wrong one, it still feels bad, but a little bit less bad. And then she counters the AoE you expected it. But if you do a single target attack and then Rem counters, it feels super bad. So, like, yeah, counters in this meta are, like, super prevalent, but I feel like it also break a lot of units if they just release a unit that says it cannot, like, units cannot counter when there's units on the field, because then we're just getting into a game state where they're going to keep releasing units that counter units. And it's just going to be like, alright, now there's a unit that seals passives at the beginning of the battle, ignores effect resistance and immunity. And then what? But that's also gonna be a passive. So if there's two of them, then there's just no passives on each side. Like, I'm kind of scary for where Epic 7 is going, to be honest. I hope that they can fix this, because I really don't want to be in a meta where every unit is a must pull and the meta is just you should just wait another month of this hell to get the unit that counters it. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's okay. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Man, we're done. An hour and 30 minutes. Holy lord. But I think my account improved a lot over the year and a bit since my last account showcase. Yeah, I'm kind of proud, you know. I remember back in the day when I was struggling to, like, I thought that being in champion was like the be all end all, right? Like that was where all the whales were, and I'm there now. So it's really surprising just to see how far I've progressed, right? And yeah, I look forward to see what I can accomplish in the future. Maybe there'll come a day where I end legend, right? I doubt it's ever gonna happen, but maybe if I get lucky enough, I get the units built, I can do it. Maybe if one of the units that I have built becomes meta again, then maybe. That's the thing about this game, with the meta shifting so much, you never know when you'll just be OP. So that's always an incentive to keep playing and keep just building the units you want, because eventually you might just become the sleeper god in that meta, and then there you go, you're like legend. So yeah, that's gonna be it. If you want to see more Baiken content from me, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there are units that I feel like I should build that I'm like overlooking, because I do have a lot of the units. Like, can I hide? How do I do this? I never go in here. I don't know. Unacquired units. So yeah, like, I don't have Pavel. I don't have Strays. So like, a lot of the units I'm missing are actually pretty useful, right? Like, I'm lucky that some of the units that I have are like the not niche ones, and a lot of these are kind of niche. Whoops. Like Briar, which is a debuffer, Charles is a cleaver, Spez is Spez, BMH is, I guess, is like a good to have one, but I just don't have them. A lot of these units are, you'd only really like pull them out when their niche is on the table, but you would be surprised how often, like when you're playing 800 games in a season like I did to finish Emp, you run into that niche way more than you think you do, or you think you would. So also, not having Pavel kind of sucks, and I really wanted Cermia, but I don't have her either. So and also Strays is a kind of regret not pulling for Strays anymore, but he'll come back eventually, so it's whatever. But yeah, I will admit that I'm quite fortunate that a lot of the units that I do have are the safe comfort picks that one fit into my playstyle, are meta, and don't have too many counterplays. Like, if you first pick Charles, you're telling your opponent, I'm going to cleave, right? Like, there's no way around that. You're not first picking Charles and then going like, oh, I'm gonna go Bruiser. But you can always first pick a Ravi, and then if it comes up, you can pivot into Klee, or you can pivot into Control, and same with FCC and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate. This is my account. Yeah, if you wanna, again, if you want to see more, like, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you wanna contact me or my guild leader directly, they are in the description of the video. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Have a good day, and everyone, as always, peace out.